Well, good morning, YouTube. This is Chuck, and it's the next morning from my last video, and we're back on our rust mitigation project this morning. And as you can see, I've been in there with the wire brush, and I've actually cleaned all that rust up, and I'm getting ready to put some of the rust converter over top of it to make sure it won't rust again. But right now, everything's looking pretty good. So we'll get back to you again in a minute. Okay, that part's finished. There's the product that I used, and as you can see, when you paint the rust with it, it turns kind of a green color, and when it totally dries, it'll turn black. And when it turns black, then you can paint it. So I'm going to go ahead and paint this when it's done. Use a little, put it on with a little throwaway brush. This stuff's pretty nasty, so you don't want to mess with it too much, but so I use those little disposable brushes and just, now throw that away when I'm done with it. But there's where I'm at so far. I even went ahead and put it on the back of the foam there where the rust is at. And we'll let that sit and dry for a little bit. So I'll get back with you here in a little bit when I get looking at some more stuff. Now we're over on the passenger side. And I went ahead and pulled that rubber sill plate off of there. And that side there, there's no evidence of rust whatsoever. I haven't cleaned it up or anything yet, so it's still got a little bit of dirt in there. But I wanted to show you what I was looking at. And now let's go back here where the barn doors are at. And there's the mat off the barn doors. And there's what we got there. Little bit of dirt. Very, very small amount of preliminary rust right there. I'll take care of that before I put that back on. But I'll just be, I'll clean this area all up. I'll clean these mats all up. And I'll put it back together. But as far as rust goes, everything's looking pretty darn good. And I'm happy about that. So catch you again here in a little bit. Okay, it's a little bit later and the sun's pretty bright right now, but as you can see, I've got that all cleaned up, ready to go back together. Back over here, I got this one all cleaned up and ready to go back together as well. Let's move some shadow out of the way here. And then back over here, I've got the mats. They're all cleaned up and they're ready to go back in as well. They've been laying in the sun to dry. Now, I'll put this all back together and get back with you, but I also, during that first segment, I actually made a boo-boo, which I kind of laughed about. When I was setting up the first shot, I told you that I'd use my rotary wire brush to clean the rust off, but the picture I showed you was actually the cutoff wheel, the red one there. So I've got one of each, and when I set up the shot, I just grabbed the wrong one. And some of you sharper-eyed folks might have already caught that. But just in case you didn't, I figured I'd tell you about it. So anyway, I'll get back to you again when this is all put back together. It'll be a little bit later this afternoon because I'm still letting all that rust converter stuff dry. So we'll talk to you in a little while. Okay, we're all back together on this side. And got that one all back in. And let's go around to the other side here right quick like. And I'll show you what we got going on there. The rust converter's all dried up. I threw some paint on there. All I had was, I had a bunch of different paint, but that's some silver. Doesn't make any difference. It's all going to be covered up anyway. But I'm going to go ahead and let that dry for a few hours, and then I'll come back and put the whole van back together. And I think I'm going to probably not do it on this video, but I was going to pull that door panel off so I can check into the bottom there. But you know, I think I can pull this speaker grill off, and I got a little camera thing. I think I can put my little camera thing down there on both sides, and I think I can check that for rust inside that door without pulling that whole door panel off. And that's a good thing. So we'll see how that goes. I'll get back with you and let you know. So, talk to you later. Okay, it's a couple, 3 hours later, and I had a shower and a nap, and so this, the paint's dry. I just checked it. So let's see if we can roll this back. I don't know if I can do this with one hand or not. I can get it for the most part with one hand. It's going to I'm going to have to work it around the gas pedal there. It's going to take me 2 hands to do that. But I'll finish that up off camera. But right now, I want to try and see if I'm right about this. Let's see if I can take these loose. some long screws on that thing to hold them speaker grills on there. I don't think you need anything quite that long, but so now I'm not going to be able to. I think I can pull those speakers loose and get in there with my camera. That might be a whole lot easier than trying to remove the door panel. I guess I need 2 hands for this. Okay, now I got that off. The speaker, let me tell you a story while I got you here about those speakers. The speakers, first of all, when I bought this van, the radio was bad. The overcharging situation I had that I talked about in my original van tour and my Tale of 4 Radiators videos, it ended up blowing up the radio. So I put a different radio in it, and so it's got a better one in there with a CD player. But I also, the speakers were blown in here, so I replaced both of the door speakers. Well, the problem was that the new stereo, the one I put in, it wouldn't talk to the forward wiring harness to talk to the speakers. And the reason for that was that let me come around, I can talk to you here. Yeah, I haven't got any better looking, but you haven't seen me yet today. But anyway, what happened was the forward wiring harness used a positive to each speaker, but the negatives that returned to the stereo were combined. So it had a common negative, but it had separate positives to the left and right. Well, the aftermarket stereo didn't like that. It wouldn't talk to it, so it wouldn't work. So what I ended up doing, and a little bit of Southern engineering here, I don't know that they've ever talked about that before, but you see those 2 wires coming out of the top, out of the front of the radio. I did that temporarily and went down to that boombox speaker setup that's back there behind the seat. Well, that's definitely a Southern engineered way of doing it, but you know something, it sounds pretty good and it's worked, and it was going to be temporary. But I need to run wire, and I got the wire to do it, but I need to run the wire back to power these speakers. The problem with that is trying to get the wire right through all this, because I got to get the wire from the door back into the truck, and this is a problem. And the only way I figured out that I can possibly do that is to remove the doors, and stretch them out a little bit so I can stretch this out, and then maybe I can fish another wire through that. So I haven't, that's the reason why I haven't done it, because if it was easy, I'd done it a long time ago. But what I need to do right now, I think, is move this speaker out just a little bit so I can get the TV camera down there, and I can't do that with one hand, so I'm gonna get back to you here in a little bit, and I'll see if I can show you what I find out. Okay, we're back. We got everything back in place here. Everything's put back in. I ran the vacuum cleaner, tried to get as much of the debris out here as I could, and I think we're back in business. The only real difference now from what it was before, let me sit down here where I can talk to you, is this down here was glued in place, and now it's just held in by 2 screws, which were there before anyway. So I may re-glue that, or I might just leave it. I don't think it's hurting a thing to just sit there the way it is. Now, as far as the door is concerned, I did take that grill off, took the speaker out, and that gave me a pretty good size hole to reach back in there. I tried my little TV camera, and that didn't work all that well. And then I tried to get in there with a flashlight and a mirror so I could see down in there, and I still couldn't really see. And then the sun was out, and it was just too darn bright. So what I ended up doing, I found out I could stick my hand down in there, and I could get about halfway up the door, reach across here and feel down there. I didn't feel any debris. Everything felt clean. And so that'll hold it until I end up taking the door panels off. I'm going to have to do that eventually anyway. So I think I'm going to call that a wrap on this project and a wrap on this multi-part video. So if you hung around this long, I appreciate that. These things are a little bit complicated. And like I say, you can't hold on to the camera and do much work at the same time. So thanks for hanging out with me. And as I always tell you, love each other, take care of each other. We'll catch you on the next one. And hopefully I got my rust problem taken care of. And so we'll talk to you again real soon. And for right now, I'll just say peace out.